Jordan Belfort, the real Wolf of Wall Street, live in the studio. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This is gonna be fun.
I'm excited. I'm very excited for this. I love being double teamed.
Oh, we're gonna double team you.
Yeah.
We have 100. I have 100
boy.
questions.
Cool.
Let's go back for the audience that is not familiar with you. Maybe they haven't heard your story, haven't seen the movie.
I guess the ones from North Korea, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, the two people that don't know what the Wolf of Wall Street is. Let's go back. Where'd you grow up? What was your childhood like?
Grew up in Bayside, Queens, middle class family. You know, it's like I think the great thing was we had enough to know how little we had. So it wasn't like there was no food in the fridge. That was always there. But we lived close to Long Island. That's where the money was. So like there was this like sort of vision we all had that like one day you'd hit it big and move out to Long Island with the rich people. Although I will tell you, growing up in a 6-story building, I would scratch my head at the age of 10, 11 saying, why would people want to live in homes? I mean, I have like 50 friends in my building. In my own floor, I had 8 friends. It was like, who would want that? And I get it now, but but I didn't get it. So I loved, sort of where I lived, growing up, tons of kids, highly educated, very success-oriented area I grew up in. So
Your dad was a smart guy, yeah?
My dad and my mom. My mom, brilliant, and my dad, who just passed, was really smart. But they were both CPAs in the 50s. My mom then went to law school in the... I think it was 2000. She was, I don't know the year she graduated. She was 71 when she graduated. She's the oldest woman in New York State to pass the bar.
Yeah, she was a real go-getter. I mean, you told us that on your show. You think that was a big inspiration for you, your mom or your dad?
I had this talk with someone the other day about kind of women in the workplace and this equal right. I think on some level I'm kind of was oblivious because my mother was so empowered that I never. You know what I mean? Like my experience that women just thrived in the work environment. She never complained about, being mistreated. But she's a brilliant lady and she would never put up with it. So it was just my own personal experience, right? Obviously, when you see shows like Mad Men, I'm like, holy shit. They're like how they used to treat women back in it's crazy, right? But that was when she was going to work, which was amazing. And she's still sharp as a tack today. Spry, and she's in the late 80s.
So what's a mini Jordan look like? Like, are you a hustler? Are you making deals?
Yeah, mini Jordan looks like just like I am today, but probably just hopefully a little bit younger. I was like a born entrepreneur / salesperson from the time I emerged from my mother's womb. At the age of 6, I was the kid with the lemonade stand and selling toys and stuff. At the age of 8, I had a paper out. I was knocking on doors to expand it. At the age of 10, I was shoveling driveways after snowstorms. So it used to snow a lot back in the day. It was before Al Gore invented global warming, right? It used to snow like crazy, right? So about a mile away was a really wealthy neighborhood called the Gables that had big homes, right? And I bundled up and I just went with my little shovel like this big, and I said, "Knock that $20, I'll shovel out your driveway," and just made a lot of money when it snowed. Then my first real venture into business was a magician. When I was 12, I was watching TV, saw David Copperfield. I think he made the Statue of Liberty disappear or something. And I was like, I want to be a magician. So I started my own little magic thing where I put an ad in the Penny Saver. It said, "The Amazing Belfort, children's parties, $25. I didn't even know how to do any magic tricks. Like, then the phone starts ringing, and I panicked. And, my dad was really good with me because he always knew I was on to these next thing, right? So he took me into the city and bought me some magic tricks. And really great memories. There's a famous magic shop called Louis Tannen back then. And I became the Amazing Belfort. Harry Potter hat, the cape, right? Did that, and then I hit it big for the first time at 16. And that's when I really made a lot of money. I started going down to Jones Beach in New York. It's a huge public beach on a hot summer sunny day. There's 1 million people, right? And I noticed this, people were bitching and moaning as they were going up to the concession stand. It's a far walk, right? It's a very long beach. So I said, I wonder what will happen if I, load up a cooler with some ice cream and ices. So I went down the next morning. Back then we had yellows, before you were even born probably, we had Yellow Pages back then, right? So found this ice cream distributor for Good Humor ice cream, went down to Astoria, Queens, with these mad Greeks there running this distributorship, right? The trucks would come in the morning and fill up. And I went in with a styrofoam cooler, $7 for the cooler, loaded up with a barrel of cherry Italian ices in a scooper and cups, Chipwiches, Fudgicles, Milky Way, Snickers, and that was it. Then I put frozen fruit bars, right?
Chipwiches were the jam.
There you go, right? And frozen fruits, right? Big markup. So totally loaded. The cooler was $22. I sold that cooler out in an hour for $140. I made like $120. It was crazy. This is 1978, right? So minimum wage I think was 95 cents an hour. I made $120 in 1 hour. So what did I do? Went back the next day with 4 coolers. And I did that through my entire, end of high school, college, put myself through school that way. So that was the little mini Jordan.
Wow.
We left after we recorded with you on your episode, we left and I told Lauren, I said, there's certain people that you encounter in this life and you can look at them and know no matter what situation they're put in, they're going to make it. Like no matter what. And you're one of those people, obviously.
My friend's dad used to say, if you flush Jordan down the toilet bowl, he'll come up holding a plumber's license.
and you kind of have in certain ways, in certain aspects of your life, which we're going to...
The problem is I flushed myself down the bowl, though, too many times, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. How do you eventually start... How do you land on Wall Street?
So that's the short story is, so I after I graduated from college, I was a very good student, right? My mom had wanted me to be a doctor, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. If you would have asked me at 20, what do you want to do for a living? I said, I want to be rich for a living. I didn't have quite a vocation in mind. I just want to be rich. So my mom always said, the only noble way to be wealthy. And this is when I was in the high chair. Like, you have to be a doctor, a dentist. So it was like she was spoon feeding me the applesauce as she was brainwashing me. You got to be a doctor, a dentist, right? So I said, well, all right. Well, I don't want to be a doctor because another 8 years I'll kill myself, right? So in me 4 years dental school, I'll be rich. I'll still be Dr. Belfort. My uncle was a dentist, made a lot of money. I said, fine. So I, took the test, did well, got in. First day of dental school, we have orientation. There's 105 kids in the auditorium. Dean gets up. He's like this white-haired guy, white jacket, very dental looking, and he's like, just looks the part. He goes, hey, welcome to the Baltimore College of Dental Surgery. You should be very proud to be here. Dentistry is a wonderful profession. You'll be a pillar. Bravo to you. Everyone's like, hey, right. So I'm like, okay, the kids look pretty bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Then he says, but let me say this. The golden age of dentistry is over. If you're here to make a lot of money, you're probably in the wrong place. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm in the wrong place. I got up and I walked right out. I literally dropped out my first day. Couldn't tell my mother that, though. She's like, oh, household? I'm like, oh, it's pretty good. It was like, oh, I didn't in Maryland. But finally, my money ran out, and I had to get real with my life. So I looked in the help wanted section, right? And I answered a blind ad for selling door-to-door. It turned out to be meat and seafood door-to-door. When I broke that to my parents, they were devastated, but, they always supported me. So I walked into this warehouse where they had these guys. This business where they sell, like, these home freezer plans, like boxes of steaks and shrimps, like the guys in the pickup trucks, right? That's what it was. And they had a one-day training program where, get in the truck with a guy, and he'll teach you how to sell, and the next day they give you a truck. So I get in the truck with this guy. His nickname was the Penguin, because he used to waddle a stick up his ass, like that sort of guy, right? So the Penguin takes me and goes, listen, the key to sales, you got to be pumped up and positive. I'm like, all right, He goes, and whatever they say to you, no matter how mean they are, just always say, have a nice day if they hang up on you or, slam the door. I'm like, why? He goes, because it makes you feel better about yourself. I'm like, all right, well, whatever, right? So he drives about 40 minutes up into an area called New Rochelle, up in Westchester County, New York. Gets into the first door, knocks, door opens, hi, I'm Elliot. I do a slam. He's like, have a nice day. He goes, it's fine, it happens sometimes. His shoulders back, waddle, get totally positive, right? Goes to the next door. Hi, I'm Ellie. I do a slam. He goes, have a nice... Well, let me tell you something. I watched like 35 doors in a row get slammed in his face. And every time they slammed the door, he was like, have a nice day, waddle, penguining all out with his, right, no problem, we'll go, right? Until somewhere like around 12:30, I noticed something strange. He gets out of the truck, his shoulders drop, he's like, loses the wallet, the stick in his ass falls out, like, he's like now walking normally, and he goes up to the door, and instead of that confident knock, he's like, barely knocks, right? And the woman opens up, kind-looking woman, and he goes, you wouldn't want any filet mignon, shrimp ball, lobster tails, right? I mean, the last 50 people said no, so assuming you're going to say no too, so let's just... Now, he didn't say those words, but it was so obvious that the guy had lost this state of certainty and no one... I was like, wow. I was like, I'd never seen this before. It's like my first experience really in the field. I was like, does he know how terrible he sounds? Well, he didn't sell a box that whole day, right? So I said, well, let me give it a shot anyway. The next day I went back to the warehouse, and they loaded me up with 35 boxes, which was, you sell 5 a day over 7 days, right, a week. And that was that, right? And you're supposed to sell, here, 5 a day, right? So I went out there, and I went up to a wealthy area back in Westchester, right? Because I figured they had money to afford it. And the first door I knocked on, it's a big mansion. I'm like, I was like, big door I knock on. I'm this little guy, right? And the woman goes, hi, can I help you? And something happened, It was the first real sales job I had. That was real sales.
It sounds like you got put in the position that you were destined to be in that moment.
Yeah, and exactly. And I remember almost like an out of body experience. Like I said, wow, I sound really good. Like I was smiling, she was laughing, whatever happened. Next thing I know, I'm in the house with like all this meat, selling her this meat. She ends up buying 13 boxes of meat. This one lady, it was called a baker's dozen, right? She probably still has the freaking meat with so much meat, right? She was like a single woman, right? So she buys it all. The first day I sold the entire truck, all 35 boxes. I almost saw a woman with the truck. She almost bought the truck from me, right? And when I got back to the warehouse, they were like, what'd you do with all the meat? Did you sell it to someone you knew? Like, I said, no, I was cold calling. They're like, bullshit. Because no one ever sold more than like 10 boxes. I said, no, I was cold calling.
Shit, I want to buy the meat after this story.
Right?
How do I buy it?
It was actually not bad meat. It wasn't particularly cheap. But, but anyway, next day they gave me 50. I sold those 50. And that first week I sold 258 boxes. I shattered the company record. I did that for a couple of weeks. And then I said, well, I'm working for these bozos. I mean, they don't know anything. Like half the time there's meat not in the freezer. I said, I'll just do it myself, like the beach. So I went down. I found the meat distributor, a fish distributor. I built myself a box. I bought a truck, made the double markup. I started going door to door and doing really well. Took the profits, bought a second truck. Then I bought a third truck. And before I knew it, I was 22. I had 26 trucks on the road. I was making a ton of money, I thought. But actually, I was making every mistake a young entrepreneur could make. I was overexpanding. I was undercapitalized, growing on credit. I had no idea what I was doing. The economics of the business were shit. I was not keeping track of inventory. Things were thawing out. People were stealing from me. I wasn't even screening out my recruits. I'd hire people from the paper and give them a truck. They'd be smoking crack under a bridge. And my stuff, it was like the worst. I literally ran the worst business in the world, right? And but of course, as a young entrepreneur, like when I had a partner, was the Penguin and I became partners, right? When we're still friends to this day, right? And the funny thing is, we went to this accountant, right? And this old Jewish accountant he found, right? And we explained the guy, oh, here's our business model. Now this guy like probably knew as much about freaking meat as like as Santa Claus, right? Anyway, so he goes, oh, well, it sounds pretty good. I think you guys are gonna be rich. We were the fucking honeymoon. We're like, we're rich. We need write-offs. Let's go buy champagne. So we go and buy. We haven't made the first freaking sale yet. We buy champagne. We need to lease cars for right. We lease ourselves beautiful cars. I mean, I literally did this. Everything you could do wrong, I did wrong. It was like within 2 years, I was like this proverbial Dutchman with my finger in things. And that's really where you learn about business, by making massive mistakes. And it was by sheer force of sales ability and training salespeople that I was able to keep this going. And then finally just collapsed. I lost everything. I personally guaranteed every truck. I went bankrupt. I was 23.
But those are the best years to learn when you're that young.
Oh my God, it was amazing. Right at the time though, I was like devastated. Right, especially the day when they took the tow truck, came and took my little red Porsche away. I thought it was like the worst thing. Right. Anyway, so right around that time, I heard the story about a kid I'd grown up with. His name was Michael Falk. Now, Michael Falk was not the sharp kid or a good-looking kid. He was like the weird kid. But there's always a kid with the smelly house. No one wants to play in his house. Right? That was Michael. You get it? His grandmother was kind of weird. I think she used to beat us with an umbrella. So he was the weirdo, right? I hear Michael's on Wall Street making over $1 million a year. I'm like, get the fuck out. $1 million a year? That's impossible. It was 1986. I'm like, this is not possible. $20,000, $5,000 a pound. Sure enough, like a day or two later, I'm in the local park, and he pulls up in a red Ferrari. All right, he's not a good-looking guy as a kid. He was a weird, dorky kid, right? He's wearing like a $2,000 suit. He looks good now. He's got a gorgeous model. I'm like, I want the car. I want the model. I want everything. I'm like, I have to go. So at the time, I was actually married to wife number one. There was a bunch of wives, so I'm not done well in the wife department, right? Anyway, this
is the one that was portrayed,
yes.
Not the Margot Robbie one.
No, the other one, right? Yeah. She was beautiful, gorgeous woman. She was like underplayed, and the girl was pretty too who played it, but she was really very beautiful.
How old did you get married the first time?
21, 2.
Oh damn, you
3,
were young.
yeah, very young. So anyway, great girl, right? But she wasn't really like a rocket scientist. Let's just say that, all right? So I mean, she was like, I need a girl that's gonna challenge me. I just do, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got your hands fucking full. My heart goes out to you, right? But anyway, all right? It's face facts, buddy, right? I love you. You're a good-looking guy, but you got your fucking hands full. All right? We all know that, right? So anyway, I respect you for it. Right? You're still alive and standing for a few more years.
We'll see how long it lasts.
You're dead before you're 40, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but happy, you're going with the smile.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hanging I'm hanging in there.
She's fucking work.
Yeah. Fucking, you're telling me.
Okay. Anyway, so now I'm in for it. Okay. But anyway, so
Guard your
I know. I got get quick, right? The slap going. Right? Anyway, so I said that I'm going to Wall Street. Now I had to actually sell myself a job here. Because, like, let's face it, my resume is like a dental school dropout who just declared bankruptcy. Fine, right? So I walk into this brokerage firm and I go to my interview and I have to, like, stick out because, like, 50 kids, everyone wants this job. It's at a big firm, LF Rothschild. And I say to the guy, listen, I'll do anything. I'll sell you stock right now. I started selling the guy a stock. I didn't know.
That's from the movie when they say, did you pitch a stock?
It's true. I did that, right? And the guy's like, whoa. He goes, geez, I never heard anyone like this. He goes, I'll tell you what. Either one of two things are going to happen to you. Either you're going to be the biggest broker in Wall Street history, or you're going to end up in jail. The guy's a fucking genius. He was right on both accounts, right? And he hired me.
Is that a line from the movie? I feel like they said that.
It's in my book. But,
but what he's saying is both happen.
Yeah, both happen. He was saying like you end in jail or be a huge broker, right? So he hires me, and I walk into the boardroom, and now I got these guys are like 60 kids there. They're making like 60, 70, 80 grand a month. Bull market of the 80s, right? And I have to stay there for like, over 6 to 8 months. It's like a training program, right? So I'm so broke. My wife and I were like, at nighttime I'm going into office buildings and selling costume jewelry door to door to pay the rent. I had no money. We could barely pay our rent. On the weekends I go to the beach and make money, right? And finally, after this, training program, getting treated like lower than pond scum, it's my first day as a broker. Passed my test. Turns out to be October 19th, 1987, Black Monday.
Yeah.
That's true. And then the stock market dropped 508 points. Just like that, firm that was in, LF Rothschild around for 112 years, out, right? And I was panic stricken because before that, even though I had no money, I felt good. Like I knew where I was going. I had this, everyone knew I was going to be a big broker. I had a lot of sales ability. Everyone knew that. But now I was like, so I'll never forget, because, now it doesn't seem like a big deal. But on that day,
money must have completely dried up. There's no.
You guys are too young for this. See, they thought that it was going to be the next Great Depression. No one realized the market would bounce back, right? So when on the way home, I was in the fucking bus. I still am traumatized from these days. I can't go on a bus. It freaks me out, right? And I remember on the bus, you could have heard a pin drop. Like everyone was so nervous. Everybody in the free world knew that the market had crashed and the Great Depression was coming. Everyone but my first wife. She wasn't like a news bug. She's watching Oprah and soap operas all day. So she just assumed that I broke the company record the first day. So she's waiting for me with a bottle of champagne. Like our last dollar, she went and bought a bottle of champagne. I walk in the door, I'm like ready to collect. She's like, did you break the record, honey? Are we rich yet? I'm like, oh my God. I collapsed in her arms and started to cry. Ugh. And that was really how it happened. And then from there, I was panic-stricken and paralyzed with fear and self-doubt and self-loathing, and I couldn't move for about 3 hours because I didn't have more than that. We couldn't pay our rent. So I took a deep breath, started going through the help wanted section, and stumbled upon an ad for a small firm in Long Island selling penny stocks, and that was how it all started. Like the movie, just like the movie.
For people that are unfamiliar with penny stocks, can you explain in a nutshell what a penny stock is?
Sure. Yeah, well, I mean...
It's for companies that can't get on the NASDAQ, right?
Yeah, the thing is that it's changed a little bit. The big thing is not so much the price, right? So, yeah, a penny stock is a stock that theoretically trades under $1. Like it's in pennies, 10 cents, 50 cents, right? But actually the context is much different. Because theoretically, you could have a stock that, Microsoft could be a penny stock. Like in some places, like Australia, they have legitimate companies, the big companies that are trading at 30 cents a share. They're priced in dimes and pennies, right? In the United States, it's very different. When a company's a penny stock, it's typically been designed to be a piece of shit. It's not going to work. It's never going to work. There's way too many outstanding shares. It was never conceived as a legitimate enterprise. That's not true in places like Canada, the mining deals, where they have shares that trade at 50 cents, right? So in the U.S., maybe things have changed somewhat. I don't think that much in the U.S., but the context was far worse than just a penny stock. But I didn't know that. I had no idea what a penny stock was. When I walked in, they said we're selling penny stocks. I'm like, what's a penny stock? I knew as much as you did. Mm-hmm. I was trained in how to sell big stocks, like back then Kodak, which is now in a business, or IBM, or so that's what I've been taught how to do. And the first thing that stuck out to me is when the guy showed me the commission structure for the penny stock, it was like if someone sent in $100,000, you would keep $50,000. Half was commission.
Wow.
And that was a reasonable sized trade where I come from. People would send in 100, $250,000 all day long. It wasn't out. Yeah, I'll buy, give me 20,000 shares of XYZ stock. That could be $250,000, no big deal. So I said, you mean to tell me if I get someone to send in 100 grand, I get 50? He's like, well, theoretically, but it doesn't work that way. You know, rich people, no, we don't call people like that. We're calling average moms and dads. They invest $500 or so forth, right? I'm like, why? I'm like, why? He goes, because rich people don't buy penny stocks. Now, as the normal me, I probably would have kind of addressed that right then and not bought into it. But at that moment, I was so beaten down. I was like, fine, just give me the leads and let me, I couldn't pay my rent. I was like, fine, okay, great. Just tell me who to call, I'll call them, right? And they hired me, and they gave me a stack of leads of these people who were like, average moms and pops, and who had written in requesting information on penny stocks that had huge upside potential and very little downside risk, as the phrase goes, right? That's the pitch from the movie Leo did. And then I sat down and wrote myself a pitch, what I thought people would want to hear. And in the same way, like with the meat business, when I opened up my mouth, like the words just, so the whole office, like, as I started talking, like, you know that weird feeling when people watching me, before I knew it, the whole office had stopped. The manager was running with a tape recorder to tape me. I'm like, what the hell's going on here, right? And I was like a modern man among cavemen. Because I had been trained by, the big firms.
Is that Matthew McConaughey character real?
Yes.
Did he actually train you?
Yes. There is a guy named Mark Hanna, who's a great guy, hysterical.
What happened to him? What's he up to?
Can you interview him, please? You got to get him on the show.
I really should. Mark's a cat. Mark was ultimately came to work for me. Became a partner for a short time at Stratton. Great guy. Lazy, but such a talent, like a natural talent, really a natural.
Lots of martinis at lunch.
The guy was he was like the sort of guy like great Mark Hanna story. He came from a wealthy family from Brooklyn, like a kind of mob affiliated, not a mob, but a mob like just in that sort of sphere, right? His dad owned a famous club called Pastels, I think, which was like where Saturday Night Fever was based on, right? So Mark's dad always had money his whole life. They were very wealthy. So Mark was like a gentleman, like, he wanted to get his nails done. Like he was just a really great guy, right? And I remember he said, like, one day his dad, like, whatever, something happened, he lost all his money. He calls Mark in, and he goes, Mark, just want to let you know, taking a setback, and, we've lost most of the family money here. So he's like, how could you? He's like, that was like, you asshole, what's wrong? That was Mark at it.
Okay, sorry, I didn't want to sidetrack you there.
Yeah, he's really funny. And, but, Mark was, the benefit I had of Mark Hanna was mostly tonality. In other words, I watched Mark, because I wasn't allowed to sell at World, I had to listen. So I was able to listen to Mark, who was really talented when it came to how he had the silky smooth way of speaking. It was almost like he was apologizing to you as he ripped your eyeballs out. It was like amazing.
Like, give us like an example, really.
Like he'd say, "Sir, I understand that you don't know me, but let me say, I want to be an asset to you, your family over the long term here. All I'm asking for, sir, is just give me one shot."
It sounds like Taylor when he's trying to get laid.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I showed you that thing about the Wolf of Wall Street for getting laid, right? It's like, but that was Marcus, sir. All I could say is, sir, you give me one shot and believe me, that was Mark. And then you'd see other people who just sucked. They're like, I'm telling you, and I was like, so I got to see both sides, and because I wasn't allowed to speak, I was like, hello, that I was really observant. So when finally my day came, and the market crashed, and I went to this firm, it all was bubbling inside my head, and I had the natural ability, and it just came out, and that's how it started.
This is the story in Robert Greene's book, The Laws of Human Nature, about the guy that was paralyzed, that got to sit and watch.
We just sit there and observed and observed and observed.
And what ended up happening is he just became real fucking good at human nature.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what sounds like what happened to you.
Exactly. And I think that really, it's funny, in my... one of the books I was writing, that whole story it got edited out but I explained that one of the things I think that really led to the creation of the system I teach was that time frame of being forced to watch others sell and to see how most people just suck so badly. I'm like, wow, do they know? I think the way I explain it now is that it's like almost a flawed internal communications platform that you have. Like, some people, communication, you have words that you say. You have tonality that you apply to those words that gets a certain point, of course. Then there's also body language. Let's keep body language out of it for a moment, right? Just so there's the tonality, how you say what you say, right? What happens with a lot of people is they have interesting words to say, and they are, in their own mind, they're applying the appropriate tonality, but they're actually tone deaf. They think they sound a certain way, and they don't. They sound all. They think like I'm really excited about this, and and to them, they think they sound like over the top excited. Like they sound like they're ready to fall asleep, right? So it's almost like the words come out the way they should, but the tonality gets impeded somewhere. There's a disconnect. So a person like that will struggle greatly with getting their point across, with capturing people's attentions, with having charisma, with living an empowered life. So one of the beauties of what I teach is just that. It's like, how do you essentially unlock this? Because it's very easy once you realize what's going on. Because here's the deal. You don't have to learn tonality. Like there's 10, altogether like 29 tonalities. 10 of them will be used again and again as we influence and persuade, right? You don't have to learn these. You already know them. It's just that you've used them by accident when you really felt the certain. Like, for instance, I don't care how poor you are with communicating. You've always had a time or a few times in your life where you were just so certain, where you spoke certain. You couldn't, it was oozing out of you, just so sure of yourself, and certainty came oozing out of you. You had other times when you really felt empathy for someone. And you're like, I am this, oh my God, yeah, John, you've had times when you told someone a secret, and you're like, Jim, let me tell you, I have something, the reason for the call today. So we've all used these tonalities when we've really felt them. So what I teach people with the system, the straight line, is how to use them on purpose. In other words, when should you apply these tonalities? And at first you do it consciously. But once you show someone, wow, consciously, here's how, eventually their unconscious mind will catch on. And once it does, it becomes fluid. And that's a gift you give people, because I just couldn't imagine. I think it's the saddest thing would be to go through life with so much talent, and so many people that are brilliant, talented, great ideas, but they almost die with their music on their lips. They can't get it out because they don't know how to share their message with people. And that, I think, is the true beauty of what sales really is, outside just of selling as a salesman, just like communicating effectively,
And some people have that more of as a natural. Like some people are more natural than others.
Of course. Some people are natural. Some people are awful. And then you have that full continuum in between. So the question really is, where do you land on the continuum? And does it serve you or not serve you? Is it impeding your life in some way? Is it not allowing you to be as effective as you could be? Are you working twice as hard because no one wants to listen to you? Because when you open your mouth, you're like, you're screaming. I have the ability. So look at it this way. Let's say you have a message has intrinsic value. Whatever that, let's say it has intrinsic value X, right? That's the message. If I was the one delivering that message, guess what? There's a multiplier. The perceived value would probably triple, because the way I would explain this to you, you'd be like, wow, damn, oh my God, holy shit, right? Versus someone that was a very poor communicator, it would be divided by a third. The value is still there, but either the communicator can enhance it or detract from it. That's really sales in the non-sales world.
So when you were selling back then, do you think you knew all this subconsciously?
Yes.
You knew?
Yes. All of it subconsciously. Yeah.
So how long after you start selling, basically selling penny stocks and making these big commissions, do you start opening your own shop?
So it's happened pretty quickly. What happened was, within the first month, I made like $60,000 myself. My money problems disappeared. And then I was approached within a few months from the manager who said, hey, I got this idea. Why don't you train the sales people? I'll run the stock markets. We'll get rich. I've never seen anyone train and sell like you. And at this point, I just been bankrupt. I was like, and it's interesting because I almost had formed some limiting beliefs about myself from that failure. Despite all the successes I've had as a kid and the anchor experiences of being an entrepreneur, one failure,
it knocks you off your pedestal.
Yeah, I was like, maybe I'm just a great salesperson. Maybe I'm not meant to run my own business, right? So I hesitated for a short time, but like most successful people, and I'm sure you guys have done this, you step into your fears, you overcome your own limiting beliefs. There's two ways to overcome limiting beliefs. You can do it yourself, which we do all the time, and empower people will do that eventually. Or you can, use people who are experts at that, life coaches that really do the real deal, the real version. People like myself that really understand the dynamics of that, and you can help people overcome it. Either way, I did it naturally. So I opened up my own firm about 5 or 6 months later. Except this time, I did everything right. Every mistake I made with the first go-around, I did the exact opposite on this go-around. And I started the firm selling penny stocks to average moms and pops. And we were doing well. That went on for about 2 or 3 months. And one day I'm lying in bed, and I'm like, wait a second. Like, I remember that for now I got my mojo back. I'm like, why are we calling poor people? Like, why don't we call rich people? They have more money to invest. It seemed counterintuitive what we're doing. So I tried that, and to my shock, it didn't work. Rich people would not buy penny stocks. They did not buy them. I said, all right, I get that. 10 cents by piece of shit, they think. I said, maybe I should reverse split the stock and make it a $5 stock, which is this technical stock marketing. A stock is, the value of a company is based on the price times the number of outstanding shares. You can raise the price of a stock without increasing its value by you reduce the number of outstanding shares. It's called a reverse split. So I took the stock and we reverse splitted it up to 5. I said, maybe people will like it more at 5. And they did a little bit, but not enough that it was like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. There was nothing monumental that I could switch to calling rich people. They really didn't want to buy it. And that did shock me. And I was lying in bed again doing my thinking, and I was like, I think I know what it is. I said, when I was, because LF Rothschild, right? I watched this happen. They're calling people all across the country, but you are Jordan Belfort, Mark Hanna, they don't know you, but calling from LF Rothschild, who they do know, the Rothschild banking name, and you're selling a company like IBM, which they'd heard of before. So you have 1 strike against you, 2 in your favor. Okay, fair enough. You could open up accounts that way. But now you're Stratton Oakmont, Jordan Belfort selling a $6 stock, 3 strikes and you're out. Right? And I said, I got to tip the odds in my favor. So I said, let me start by not selling a $6 stock. Let me start by selling a bigger stock that they've all heard of. So I found a company that you all know, Eastman Kodak. Back then it was a blue chip, very blue. Now it's out of business, ironically. And there was a great story about why the stock was depressed. And I wrote this great script. And I started calling rich people. And also as far as Stratton went, so I came.
What's the script?
The script. Well, the script.
Do you remember it?
Yeah. Well, the script for Stratton, sure, was like I had to come up with a reason why they never heard.
Can you give me the inflection? Like, pretend I'm on the other line. I'm like, I'm sitting around. I'm watching Oprah, like your wife.
Yeah.
I'm watching a soap opera and my phone rings.
Let's say you're a rich person. So you might target market, right?
I'm a rich person.
I say, Jim, hey, Jordan Bubba calling from Stratton, Oakland. How you doing today? You say, all right. Say, Jim, listen, you probably haven't heard of Stratton because for the last 10 years, we're strictly an institutional block trading firm dealing with select group of banks, insurance companies, and pension funds. However, we've recently opened up our doors, Jim, to the more substantial private investor. And all I want to do right now, with your permission, of course, is send you out some information on the company, Stratton, okay, along with a copy of our track record, and then get back to you down the road next time we're making a recommendation to our institutional clients. Does that sound fair enough?
I gotta say, Leo fucking nailed you.
Leo did nail you.
Great, right?
Okay, sorry, I just needed to hear that.
So then they'd say, yeah, sure, go ahead. Now, what could I really send them? Now, that story was true. See, I didn't start Stratton. I bought it, and it was in business for 10 years. It was an institutional trading firm dealing with banks. So I found the best version of the story that you probably, right, you haven't heard of us because we're shit-ass securities. It was, no, you probably haven't heard of us before because we're, for the last 10 years, we're strictly an institutional trading firm dealing with banks, insurance companies, and pension funds. All right, makes sense. There's a reason why. It's called a justifier. However, we've recently, we recently opened up our doors to the most substantial private investor. And Jim, all I want to do right now, with your permission, of course.
I love the with your permission, of course.
Send you out some information on our company, Stratton Securities, right? And then get back to you next time I'm making a recommendation to our big clients. Does that sound fair enough? Reasonable man. Like, does that sound reasonable man? He goes, yeah, sure, why not? Great. Just a couple of quick questions. Jim, so don't waste your time in the future. Ask him 3 or 4 questions. What do you? Great. Great, Jim. Next time we speak, I'll have some great for you. Have a great day. Next time. Then you wait like 10 days, call him back, say, hey, Jim. Now here was the magic, though. So rather than, what could I send them? We really didn't have a brochure. So rather than trying to conjure something up and lying, I just sent them a letter saying, great, speaking that day, blah, blah, and I sent them a book. In a FedEx, like a book, actual book, right? So why? Because it created reciprocity. So when they got the book and you tried to, because it's very hard to get through the gatekeeper twice sometimes. So when we call back, these are wealthy businesses, we're calling B2B, right? Businesses. So when you call a business owner and you say, hey, is Jim around? Who's going, oh, Jordan from Stratton? He'll notice that. Oh, Jim, it's the guy who sent you the book. He's like, oh, fuck, all right, fine. He feels indebted to you. Just not to buy, but to pick up. Hey, Jim, Jordan Belfort, how you doing today? He's all right, great. Now, Jim, if you recall, we spoke last week. I said I'd get back to you when I had something that was really over the top great. Does that ring a bell? He goes, yeah, great. Well, Jim, the reason for the call today, something just came across my desk. It is perhaps the best thing I've seen in the last 6 months. You have 60 seconds. I want to share the idea with you. Got a minute? He's like, yeah, shoot, go ahead. Great. Name of the company, Eastman Co. And that was it, right? And then so I tested that idea, and guess what? people started buying like mad.
This is a really good practice for men that need to get a girl. So Taylor, you should be taking it. Use your inflection.
Our producer
Taylor,
throw in with your permission, of course.
Taylor, what she's saying is the desperation is so obvious, ringing off you. She's just telling the world. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Nowadays, especially,
Yeah.
in the old days, fuck permission,
So let me,
whether you like it or not.
So let's fast track it a little bit because I want to talk about
Sure.
when this starts taking off and you guys start going.
So what happens?
wild.
Here's what happens. So long story short, so I did that and I recruited my junior partner Danny, the Jonah Hill character, right? Great guy.
Is that true? The way you guys met, where he said, "Show me that pay stub."
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Oh, well.
Except it happened in the playground of our apartment building, not in the diner.
Okay.
But it was exactly like that. I showed him the pay stub, and that was all right. He quit his job that day, right? And he true to life, he actually was married to his first cousin.
Wow.
Which he was so funny. This guy.
You still know the guy? You still?
Yeah, he lives far away from us, but he was a very funny guy. I mean, some of the things that came out, he's like, kid leave on the institution steps. He was like that. If the kids were, he was really, really hardcore, funny guy, and he's got two wonderful kids who actually live in L.A. Right?
Okay.
Great kids, right? So anyway, but I don't really keep in touch with them. Anyway, so we started doing this. We opened a lot of accounts. The plan was we call them back 10 days later and say. And I won't get into all the particulars, like, you had schmooze calls in the middle, right, to touch base. Hey, everything's going well. But then you call them back 10 days later, say, Jim, hey, 2 reasons for the call, something, number one, want to quickly update you on Kodak. Right now, the stock's where we bought it, blah, 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 right? Tell them a story about Kodak. And second reason, Jim, something else just came across my desk this morning. It's a bit different in nature, more speculative, one of our own investment banking deals. If you have 60 seconds, I want to share it with you. Got a minute? He's like, yeah, true, go ahead. Now... The idea I had was because you're now his broker, he perceives you as a regular, not a penny broker. He's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Say, great, Jim. Name of the company, Ventura Entertainment. It's actually a West Coast company located out here. Okay, and anyway, the biggest trade in penny stock history. And remember, Ventura was a penny stock. We split it to 5 and did this sort of 2-step process with the loss leader, I guess you could say, with Kodak was the loss leader. So the biggest trade was I think I did a $6,000 trade. It was broke all the records, right? The average trade of a penny stock was $500. So Danny and I have our stack of leads because we opened up accounts in Kodak but made no commission from that, right? But he had 50, I had 50. So we start dialing. He gets the first connect. I'm in my office. He's in the boardroom. So I'm watching him through the window, and he's talking, and I'm just watching him. He's talking. About 2 minutes later, he hangs up the phone. He's got this kind of a weird look on his face, and he walks towards my office. He's holding a buy ticket. So I guess the guy bought something. I said, what happened? He goes, I don't know. He goes, the guy bought $120,000 worth and apologized for working so small. And in that moment, I knew.
You knew that you were going to just be flooded with money.
I was like, oh my fucking God, I've cracked the code. I made on that trade $70,000 in like a minute, and that was like it would be like 1,000 pennies. It was just you couldn't compare the profit from like the ability to call a rich person that could deploy. And by the way, like I said,
and apologize to you for only spending
$100,000, right? Versus the guy scrapes together $500. I had 12 people working me, the Strattonites, right, who had the average IQ of Forrest Gump on 3 hits of acid, basically, right? And, they could and what happened was I looked out into the boardroom. I saw my strat. I said, wow, all I have to do is take these 12 kids and teach them how to call rich people, and I'm going to be the richest guy. The rest will be history.
So how fast does this all start pouring in?
Yeah, I also want to know how you teach them.
Well, I'll tell you, this is what happened. So I said, wow, all I got to do is teach them how to do what I'm doing, and the rest, as they say, will be history. Well, as they also say, easier said than fucking done. As it turned out, trying to train a bunch of barely post-adolescent nincompoops, okay, who dropped out of high school to close the toughest, richest, meanest investors in the world, CEOs, it turned out to be not just difficult, but fucking impossible. After 1 month of them trying to close, they hadn't opened up a single account. And meanwhile, Danny and I were still opening up accounts like water. And that baffled me. So what happened was I was teaching a difference. I was teaching sales. I was a great sales trainer even before I invented the straight line. But I was teaching a different system. It didn't have a name, but it was great. It was the thing with the system is like you don't know how great it really is until you stress it to the point of fracture. Like, it was good enough to get an average mom or pop to part with $500 because it's an impulse buy, no big deal, right? But like any other engineering project that goes awry, like, the bridge collapsed, like, oops, we thought it was strong, but one too many cars on the bridge, the wind is blowing 1 mile an hour, and catastrophic failure. Well, what happened to me? The system I taught had a catastrophic failure. It didn't work. I could not use the system to take average kids with no education and get them to close rich people. And then I went on a quest for about a month as they weren't closing, trying to find some other system. I studied everyone else's. And the worst part was that already the system I had back then was infinitely better than anything else I saw. So I was stuck. So it was like this 4-week period where everyone was negative. They wanted to quit. And, I used to give these marathon, every morning I give a meeting. And then every afternoon I give another meeting. Then I give these marathon trainings at nighttime. And for like 4 hours, once every 2 weeks. I said, come back. We need a marathon because we can't take this. The rich people are assholes, right? So I agreed to come back. And I knew it was like a make or break moment, right? Because either I was going to crack the code for this or they wanted to go back to selling penny stocks. They made me so angry because I knew I was onto this big thing. Long story short, I went back that night. And it was in that evening where something happened and a thought occurred to me. And it had to do with, they were getting hit with objection after objection. And I was as well, but not in the way they were. They were getting batted around. And I had this thought, and I looked at these guys, and I said, guys, don't you guys get it? Every sale's the same. And they're like, what? I'm like, guys, every sale is the same. Watch. It's a straight line. And I drew this long line on the center of the board. And I put a big, thick X on either end. It was a visual representation
of exactly what would happen in the sales call.
Yeah. Okay. And see, what was happening was I was such a natural born closer. It became so easy to me that
you knew what to do at each point.
Like, it didn't matter what they said. I knew exactly how to react, how to sort of, corral the sale, move it forward down this line. And there was something about this line that when I drew a line and it just completely redefined how I taught people how to sell. And I said to them, guys, you got 4 seconds. See, here's what I read. The crux of it, there's so many different aspects of the straight line. It's an amazing program. It changes people's lives today. I mean, it's amazing. It really is. But the crux of it was that I have, and you could see it today, but back then it was the same. I have a certain way of talking that when you hear me, you're like, damn, that guy sounds, you heard with Leo. He said, wow, he sounded sharp, right? That's a strategy. To sound sharp, to sound on the ball, to be enthusiastic, but not yelling and screaming, bottled enthusiasm, right? And also an expert in your field. So unless that comes across in the first few seconds, you're done. The prospect, in this case, these wealthy businessmen, would say, this guy's a novice, and they would take control. So if the other party takes control of the conversation, guess what? Every sale becomes different because now they're controlling. You become reactive. Versus
everyone can apply this to dating too.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course it's for dating. And there's a great thing, you saw a thing online with Stevie. It's hysterical. This guy did
we're gonna link it out.
Yeah, it's really funny. So it's for here's what it is. It's communication strategy. Now when it comes to selling, it took what happened was I went through a 4-hour marathon. They taped me. And it was late at night, so I was like, I hope that sounds pretty unique, right? Next morning, I gave another meeting, they taped me again. At 9:30, they picked up the phones, and what happened next was like, I'd never seen anything like it. These kids who couldn't close the damn door went on an account opening spree that resulted in, 2 movies.
When you blow the doors off this and you crack the code and the money starts pouring in, like, how fast does your life start escalating? Like,
within
cars,
days.
boats,
when does the cocaine come in?
Or was it always there?
What kind of dirty mind? Because you know what that means.
I have a lot of questions.
Okay, I'll answer all of them.
Okay.
Fully and completely.
When do the doors completely come off?
When do the doors come off?
The doors come off when I meet a guy. I'm on vacation in.
Is this second wife or first still?
First wife.
Okay,
still.
go on.
And I meet this guy, and his name was Elliot Levine, and he was the chairman of Perry Ellis, men's clothing, CEO of Perry Ellis, right? One of the most brilliant garmentos ever, but a complete degenerate. And I had to love him for it. Because everyone,
sounds fun.
He sounds fun. He was like.
Is he single?
He's like 68 right now. But the Elliot Levine was the guy who he could wear a diaper and a bow tie. That's the latest thing. Everyone wants to wear a diaper. He was like such a charismatic and a brilliant guy, but the most self-destructive person. Like Elliot, and I'm not exaggerating, he would bet on like 8 ants dancing on a postage stamp. So who would win the dance off? He would bet on anything, this guy. Like, he was constantly betting, like, tossing coins, 10,000 a toss. Like, he was. So when I met him, I was in the Bahamas, and my junior partner, his nickname was the blockhead, we called him, because he had like a blockhead, and it was dumb as a block too, but his head was like so square you could drop a plumb line down and it would hit his fucking cheek the whole time, right? So the blockhead says to me, you gotta go into the casino, check this guy, it's like James Bond. So I run into the casino, and I see this young guy. You have to understand the scene I walk into. He's a handsome guy back then, right? He was in his probably late 30s or mid 30s, right? And he's sitting there with about $1 million in chips on the table. I never seen. He's playing 7 hands, 10,000 a hand, and his wife is standing by him. She's blonde, Jewish, emaciated to near perfection. All right, and her shirt, she has got an ace of spades and a jack of diamonds, like with studded, like. It was like out of a fucking, like a character of a movie, right? I was like, holy shit. And I'm watching this guy play, and he's up like 500 grand. Like, I thought it was a big deal. I'd give him $500. You know? Holy shit. Next day, he comes out to the pool, and he just sits beside me, right? We start talking, and we hit it off. He'll take a like. He was much older than me, and he told me what I was doing. Anyway, about a week later, we met in the city. I didn't know who he was. Turns out he was a huge player in the garment center. He takes me out for lunch into the garment center, and we're sitting there, and we're talking casually, and he's like, I'm like, what did he just? It was like if David Copperfield could do cocaine by sleight of hand. He was so smooth, this guy. He's like, as he's talking to me, he took that. He had like this little belay he carried with a Perry Ellis collar stay. He's like, anyway, talking. It's like 4 DHs. No one's like, what happened there? Did he do? He did coke. It was beautiful to watch. It was gorgeous to watch this guy do coke, right? Holy shit, right? So next thing I know, he's like, here, I can't do coke. He goes, try. I'm like, all right, fine. I'm very impressionable, right? So I was all right, fine. So I did coke. And then once that happens, I'm a bad person. You know, once the cocaine starts up, it's terrible. I just want to do terrible things with women, and the dirtier, the better. So he says, it was the middle of the day. So I'm like, and I was like a nice guy, loved my wife and everything. But, you know, I had some coke in my system. So he's like, well, let's go to see Gina Girls. I'm like, who's Gina Girls? Oh, you'll love Gina Girls. It was a madam in the city, right? Next thing I know, I'm with 2 hookers, one sitting on my face. I'm a lost and I'm just like the dirtier, the better. I'm just snorting coke. Although I didn't even come home that night. And like, you know, and that was that. And then that was a blip. I was like, wow, this guy's a maniac. He goes, hey, next day, let's go gamble together. We take a chopper to AC. Went with Trump, by the way. Was in the chopper with us. Right? It was his casinos, right? Okay, because he owned the casinos, right? We flew down there and gambled like just wild, man. We did massive quantities of cocaine. And his drug was Quaaludes.
I wanted to ask you about Quaaludes. That's actually one
so
of my
that's
questions
really how
about
the Quaaludes started. So, and he was at the Quaaludes, and we started doing Quaaludes. And
what does a Quaalude do to you? Because you can't even find them anymore, right?
Thank God for that, because I'd be taking them if you could. You know, they're so great. They were like the ultimate euphoric high. So imagine, I guess, imagine you could take like 5 beers and distill it down to like its essence of this and inject it in mainline, buzzing and so euphoric, right? And the thing is, you wouldn't get tired from it afterwards. Like, you could be really fucked up, slurring and drooling, and then like an hour later, hey, how you doing? So there was no hangover from them, right? So, and then you could balance out the tiredness with a little coke, which made perfect sense to me, right? So I started doing it to balance, right? And Elliot and I just became like running partners, you know? And in fact, Steve Madden's Shoes is Steve Madden's Shoes because of Elliot. So I was the founder of Steve Madden with Steve together. We founded it. And I was tapping Elliot's brain, which was this brilliant Mark who really came with the strategy that drove Steve Madden Shoes.
So what ultimately, you're going crazy, you're making a lot of money. Like, what ultimately was the downfall? What got federal agencies involved, and what got them paying attention to what you were doing?
Well, the big one was just that some of it was bad luck that someone else got indicted, but ultimately it was the smuggling money overseas. And that's what Agent Coleman said. Like, to me, when he was on my pod with friends now, the FBI agent and I are friends, right? He was on my podcast last week.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and it's really, really interesting, like his take on the whole thing. It wasn't the stock stuff. That was whatever, you know, it was SEC stuff. It wasn't like really that bad, I guess, in their eyes. The FBI was going to go after, right? But I smuggled money, the cash, to Switzerland. And that opened up the whole money laundering stuff, and that was really it.
And so at this point, but just like walk me through this, through the movie. So at this point, you're on wife number 2.
Yeah, so what happened was, it was just like the movie. I started throwing these wild parties in the Hamptons, right? And it was
God, I wish I could have gone.
They
to
were
one of those
really
parties.
fun. They were so great. I had the police working for me, so it was like the neighbors like, "Wow, there's so much shit going." Like, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. Like, right? The parties were just insane. They got bigger and bigger and bigger. Right? It'd be thousands
Really
of people.
irritated that I wasn't around and didn't know you then.
Really, it was great, and it also was a different time. This is when sexual harassment was considered like in vogue. But I'm not saying that's a good thing or anything, but no one at Stratton got harassed. I'll tell you that much. It did not happen. Everyone fucked everyone. But if you harassed someone, you were fired.
Taylor, too bad you didn't work for Jordan.
Yeah. But like it wasn't like it was really interesting. It was just so much. Everyone was young. All these fine-looking animals. Like, you're a fine-looking animal. I'm a fine-looking animal. I was like, let's just all fuck, right? I mean, it was really bad. Like it was like you never knew what was gonna happen when you opened up a bathroom stall.
Is your second wife mad that everyone's fucking each other?
No. So when I met the second wife, met the second wife at a party.
Okay.
She walks in, and she was very beautiful.
I Googled her. She's beautiful.
Yeah, and imagine her when she was 21, right? We all look better when we're 21, I guess, right? Except for you. You're getting better every year.
Thank you.
I know. Of course, Anyway, I gotta get back my brownie voice.
Yeah.
Smooth up.
I know.
With your permission, of course.
With your permission, of course, right? So, anyway, as I was saying, so she was very beautiful, and I was like, fuck. I was like, and my first wife was beautiful too, but at that point, I just wanted longer legs, blonder hair. It was idiocy. Like the whole thing was just not even. I don't think any woman really could have made me happy at that point in my life. I just was more bigger, better, this and that. Right? So, and she became my mistress for a short time, and then I fell in love with my mistress, and I left my first wife exactly like the movie. She pulled up in the limousine, and the door opens, and like it was just awful, right? Anyway, so that ended marriage one, and then she came on the scene, and she was a very good running partner for me. She was the right wife at the right time. And she gave me two of the most amazing children in the world. And they're amazing. So I'll always love her for that. You know what I'm saying? And we had a very, very dysfunctional marriage that was. I mean, it's hard to say because, like, I think that both of us are probably. Listen, I try not to reframe it. I think we always reframe what happened in the past. I know for me, I think her version is completely full of shit. She's so full of shit about the whole thing. I mean, she's a therapist now, trying to make it. She was like a hostage. I mean, please, okay? I mean, it's like just not true, okay? I mean, saying I was no gem and she was no gem, okay? And she knew full well what was going on, all right? And blah 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 blah. So again, I'm not saying I was a model citizen, but she was no model citizen either. It takes two to tango, right? My first wife was an innocent victim. That I will tell you. She was an innocent victim, not the second. She was a mercenary.
So I want to know, after all of this comes crumbling down and you have to go to jail, what is it like in jail for you? Are you isolated from everyone else, or were you like in the yard with all these different people?
No, it was Tommy Chong was my bunkmate from Cheech and
Cheech and Chong?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what happens? I go to jail, and it was a white.
Where is it? Like a white collar jail? Okay.
It was a totally cool jail. They had tennis courts. I had a butler, believe it or not.
I want to go to jail.
It's not so. So I said to I said to a friend of mine who's going to jail. He's probably going to get sentenced for something he did recently. I said it's not that for what you did. It's not. So you go to real jail. It's a very different thing, right? But in the white collar, it's not. When I say white collar, that's not really the right word. It's like it's a non-violent offenders jail for people with short sentences. You get it?
Yeah, you don't have to worry about getting.
There is no one lifts a finger in anger. It's more about like can we get Rosemary from the garden to cook? Seriously, I had a butler, I had a masseuse. I'm not kidding you. But that being said, it still sucked because it was jail. But you make the best of it. You get it? Because when you have money in jail, you can get anything you want, right? I mean, in terms of people will do anything for 5 cans of tuna. I'll make your bed every single day and bring you cappuccino. And one guy was cooking. This guy was catching squirrels. I shit you not. It was David. In fact, Tommy was on my podcast. And he was catching squirrels in the yard and cooking us.
To eat squirrels?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is squirrel good?
Well, I don't know, because by the time I got there was really no squirrels left. And Tommy had been through the whole squirrel cave. He got there before me.
Tommy Chong's just chomping down squirrels?
Yeah, so Tommy, by the way, is the best. So what happened was he was in jail before me. He got there a few months before me, right?
Marijuana beef?
So not even the stupidest thing ever. His kid was selling bongs, but across state lines. Not even drugs. Anyway, because he's Tommy Chong, right? They made him an example, right? Wonderful guy. And when I got there, we were both very high profile. So I guess the administrator, Mrs. Strickland, she was a great lady. I think she passed away from brain cancer. But she decided that the best way to keep an eye on both of us was to put us together in the same cell. So she moved someone out of a cell and put us together. And she's all right, you two are going to be in one. So we had this, like, we were like in this, I wouldn't call it privilege, but let's just say as close as you can, where the woman was treated us very well. And Tommy was my bunkmate, right? So the first few days of us being together, you know, we tell each other stories, and, you know, I'd have him rolling on the floor with some of my stories of my insanity. And the third or fourth night, he goes, you know, I honestly thought you were making this shit up. But my wife Googled you, and it's all there. I can't believe it. He goes, you got to write a book. I'm like, really? I'm like, I didn't think my life was that weird. Because, like, you know when it's your life, you're just like, I don't know. Really, that's my life. He goes, oh, my God, it's crazy. I'm Tommy Chong. I'm saying your life is crazy. Hold on for a second.
Jordan, Martin Scorsese
I know.
did a fucking movie on you.
I know.
And Leonardo DiCaprio played you. Your life's pretty fucking crazy, man.
I know, but at the time, it's like these little steps you take, and you can become desensitized to your own sanity. You know, I won't deny I knew that most people don't sink yachts and stuff. I said that was a bit strange when that happened. I think strange things just happened to me. Like, I didn't really quite understand what was going on. I was almost like a little kid.
How'd you sink a yacht?
Taking it out into a storm because I was high on Quaaludes. I was in what's called the movement phase. Like with Quaaludes, you have these phases. You have the tingle phase. So you take a Quaalude, right? And you start to tingle. It's really a force of greatness, right? Then you get what's called the slur phase, where you start to slur, I love you, you love her, I love you, right? And you're slurring, you're like baby slur, you slur, it's fine, I had baby, a few slurs, she sounds good, I could slur too, no big deal, right? Then you get into what's called the drool phase, where you start to get a little more fucked up, you're like, drool, but you're like, well, baby's drool, I can drool it. Then you have what's called unconsciousness, that's phase 4, and you can actually get past phase 4 by doing coke at this strategic moment, right? And those are the phases of a Quaalude high, right? Then there's this other phase, very rare, happens only once in a while, when the drugs hit you the wrong way, and it becomes it's like the drug-induced equivalent of having ants in your pants. You can't sit fucking still. Well, what happened was I ended up going to Rome to go on a 2-week cruise with the boat. The movie's completely fictionalized with that. Why? That it's true, the boat sank, but it wasn't. They had some other reason. They were trying to tie loose ends together in the movie, right? But I was just there on vacation, right? And we were in Rome, and the plan was to go to Sardinia, and we went down. There was 8 of us, you know, my wife and 3 of our couples, friends, right? And when someone goes, "Oh my God, why is the water so rough in the harbor?" I look and there's like white caps in the harbor, and that was when I realized, like, fuck. I'm like, I'm in the movement phase. I said, we have to, like, I felt like this terrible fear, like almost anxiety attack, that if I stood in the harbor, I would die. So when we get to the ship, my wife runs in, she goes, Captain Mark, you know, is it too rough to make the crossing? And he's like, well, I said, Mark, if we don't move, I will die. I said, can we make it? He goes, yeah, we'll make it. We'll break a few places. But I said, fucking let's go. He goes, let's go. It'll be a great adventure. And that was how it started, right? So it was like 8 to 10 foot chop. Right, and then so I got in the boat, and took 4 more ludes because that's what I did when I got in the boat. So it was the appropriate move at the moment. Went to the top deck, drank a few Bloody Marys, passed out cold. I woke up about 2 hours later to the feeling of sea spray on my face. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like 50 feet up, and all of a sudden a wall of water comes crashing down, boom, and that was how it started. Meanwhile, so I fell asleep up top. The storm turned into a freak Class 4-7 gale with like 30-foot waves and 80 mile an hour. It was just the craziest thing. So meanwhile, I go back downstairs now into the main salon, right? And there on the leopard print carpet, it's like a really big boat, 160-foot boat, right? 170-foot boat, right? My wife and this was 8 of us, so her and 6 other people, 7, 8, right? They tied themselves together with a rope. Not that fucking smart, right? I'm like, and they're on the thing, and they're crying, and there's plates of like decorative frisbees.
No one thought to get you?
No, I was sleeping. No, I couldn't even move. It was impossible to move.
And you're whacked out on Quaaludes.
I'm like, what happened? I'm like, the wife said, I'm gonna kill you. What did you do to us? You forced us. I'm like, all right, calm down. Anyway, long story short, we started crawling up to go see the captain. Crawl, couldn't even walk. Right, we get to the bridge, and the captain's like, what happened, Captain Mark? He's like, oh, we're in trouble now. We're in the shit. He's like, a freak storm kicked up, and it's only getting worse. I'm like, well, can we turn around? He goes, we can't, because if we turn around, we'll get broadside, we'll tip over. I'm like, oh, fuck it, right? Whatever. So we now on the deck, and I'm like, my friend Rob was there, who was my partner in drug crime. Like, this guy is like, before we went on this trip, I had to go on a last-minute drug collection. So he properly armed with all a bag full of drugs. So like, Rob, you have the coke. Like, we started doing coke as the. I was just so crazy. I didn't want to die sober, right? So getting high as kites as the thing's banging this way and that. And after like an hour and a half of this boat just like being ripped apart, all of a sudden the captain's like, shit, rogue wave. We're like, what's a rogue wave? We're like, oh, fuck it. Out of like the side, some like gigantic wall of water comes at us. And he turns into it and he guns it. And we start going up and it just flipped over. And the boat flips over. And now like basically we're like kind of half caps as we turn back up on our side, right? And he's like, you all right? We're like, yeah, we're all right, right? Then the engineer comes up from the bottom. We had a crew of 12, right? He's like, we lost the front porthole. We're going down by the head. And I was like, yes. Like, because I fucking hated this boat. Like, I'm like, insurance money, right? And so the captain's like, Mayday, yacht Nadine going down. Anyway, so they now had to come rescue us. And they sent out the actual Coast Guard. And they try to lower the basket, you know? Well, it's like the movies, not quite. It's fucking harder than that. Because when the wind is howling, it's 50 feet that way. They couldn't get the basket to land on the boat. They ran out of gas. Right? So now they left. He goes, all right, we have to go into the rubber rafts. I'm like, the rubber fucking raft. It's like 50-foot waves now, right? Puts the first rubber raft in. We all go down to like the back deck. It washes away. He's like, all right, that's not going to work. He goes, wait, go back up to the top now. We go back up to the top, right? He's like, all right, I just got a call from they're saying the Navy. The Italian Navy SEALs are coming to rescue us. The Special Forces, right? So we're like, all right, we have to push the helicopter over the side. We had a helicopter and a plane on the boat. Right? So we pushed the helicopter over the side to make room for the landing, right? So now they say you can only take what you can carry. No luggage. Now, my wife had already lost her luggage on the way there. So he just bought like $50,000 worth of new clothes, right? So now that's gone. Like, all right, fuck it. Now on the boat, I had about $250,000 in cash, artwork, valuables, paperwork. I look at my friend Rob. I said, Rob, you got the Quaaludes? He's like, no, I thought you had. I said, Rob, where are the liquors in your statement? I said, get the fucking Ludes. Like, I could not be stuck in this country without Ludes. He was like, I'll get the Ludes. 10 minutes later, I'm like, where's fucking Rob? I go downstairs. He's on the stairs with his pants and I was pissing on the carpet. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I just always wanted to do something like that. I'm like, get the fucking Ludes. Right? He goes, all right, fine. So he goes downstairs, right? He comes back like a minute later. He goes, I got shocked. I couldn't. There's a short circuit. It's flooded. I can't get the pills. I'm like, soldier, you fucking go. I don't care unless you're going to die from this shit. You're right. You're right. What was I thinking? Because like, just do me a favor. You just met this girl, Shelly, who was his girlfriend back then. She was a total mismatch from Rob. Shelly had to walk around quoting the Bible all day, right? Anyway, he's like, just get Shelly a breast job if I die. I said, fair enough, right? I agreed to that. So he goes down. He comes back up with a bag of 150, loses his hands on, and his third-degree burns on his foot, right? So now we go back up to the top, right? So anyway, long story short, the story goes on and on here. Okay,
well, how much did not make in the movie?
Oh my God, so much. I mean, there's political corruption involved.
We gotta have you back in here just to dive into all this shit.
You know, at the end of the day, listen. You know, it's funny and it was glamorous. There's some things that were, but you know, it's great. My life is much better today. I'm sober for, wow. I mean, it was 1997. So do the math. At 20 plus 22 years, right? And you know, it was terrible. Like, you know, I mean, to live like that, it was great on one hand, but it was awful on the other hand. So, you know, if I could do it again, of course I would change things, right? Now my life
what's the biggest regret?
That people lost money, even though they were rich. That doesn't make it right. That I definitely would change that. That was the biggest regret, you know? And also all the drugs I did. Like, because I can't look back and say the drugs enhance the memories. Like all I can tell you is that you pick a fine restaurant anywhere in the world. I've fallen asleep in a bowl of soup at that restaurant when I was high versus really enjoying things as I could have enjoyed them. You know, now, you know, and went out and eventually, ultimately was that system of sales though, that I was able to take that and then really take that and make it ethical, and that launched my new life after the movie, and that was my life is infinitely better today. You know.
So when you find out that Martin Scorsese wants to make a movie about you, and do you automatically get to meet with Matthew and Leo and all these people? Like, how did Leo learn to depict you so well? Did he follow you around?
Yeah, no, we spent about a year together.
Just him studying you and
all the time going out, hanging out. Yeah, we became good friends all the time.
Is he cool?
Very cool. He's such a nice guy. I got to tell you, he's such a good guy, and he's a man of his word. Like, you know, he really is a good guy. I hope he one day gets married and finds love.
Maybe this one.
Who knows? He's a wonderful guy, and he loves his mom. and she's a doll too. He's a really good guy. He really is a good guy. He's not. He never notice. He never gets in trouble.
Yeah.
Like he's just a. He
flies under the radar.
He's a solid dude.
Okay, so here's my proposal. Since we have to be out of here in 2 minutes.
Do you want to sleep with me for $1 million? Is it the indecent proposal?
You never know.
Where are the
my proposal? $1 million.
You never know.
Where are the lewds?
No.
There we go.
This is what I propose. You are such an insane podcast guest. I want you to come back and we talked about this with your wife.
Yes.
Will you?
With her
permission.
With her permission, of course.
Yeah, Taylor, don't get a fucking hard on for her.
Right.
She's really hot. I want you to come back with your wife because I have more questions that I didn't get to cover.
I want to tell you one funny story before we go.
Go.
So last time we were at my podcast, I said to you, I asked you a question. I said, what would you do if you're going to die when you hear this? I said, this is the classic. I said, what would you do if you were single right now? Where would you go to meet a guy? Remember what you said to me?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said a bookstore.
Or what? You said I'd be sitting.
A bookstore
or I'd be sitting.
Oh, yeah, my whole thing. No, I said, this is what I would do. I would go to Saint-Tropez. I would go to the harbor. I would go to that little cafe. I think it's called Seneca. And I would sit with Anna Karenina with a dog-eared book that I hid against the floor 500 times with bookmarks hanging out of it. And I would wear this really hot outfit with huge sunglasses and a huge hat that's like, don't fucking bother me or talk to me. And I would cross my legs with white stilettos, super high, right in front of the yachts.
Where do you think my wife was when you said that?
She was in Saint-Tropez.
With her friends.
She might
She's
be reading Anna Karenina. You better look what she's reading.
How funny is that, by the way?
That's
where she is. She's with her friends.
It's such an accurate thing. You sit there and you look like, don't fucking touch me, don't talk to me. It's
I don't think she's trying to pick up a guy, but she's there because she loves Saint-Tropez. It was so ironic that you said
track her
that.
location.
I was like, you're not going to believe what my I knew what I was fucking with her.
That's my whole strategy. So Michael better not fuck with me.
I'll
go somewhere else.
You don't fuck with her.
Yeah, don't fuck with her.
No.
I'd
like to live a little longer.
I think if you fuck with that would be the least of your problems, by the way.
Yeah.
I was reading an article the other day about the woman who cut off the husband's genitals.
That's too boring. That's too obvious.
Too obvious for you. It's one of those.
I'd go way fucking deeper
I'm
than
glad
that.
that's off the table.
It would be more like that movie with Meg Ryan with the guy when the ex. What was that with Matthew McConaughey? Accidentally.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the name.
It's really funny when she destroys puts pills, his hands, his whole thing.
I might frame him for murder or like drug use.
Yeah, your life is.
I don't want him to go anywhere white collar though. It needs to be like
bad.
Yeah,
penitentiary shit.
But like penitentiary in Guatemala.
Definitely.
You know,
you may be a bad influence, Jordan.
I would like.
We're just spitballing here.
I want you and your wife to come back on. I'm already inviting you right now on air in like 3 weeks. When she comes back from reading Anna Karenina.
She'd love to come on. She's dog-earing the book as we speak.
She's hitting it against the
and
ground
I'm sure
so it
her
looks
stilettos
used.
are high enough.
Yeah, you get a little fake library card popping out like you're subscribed to the library. You know what I mean? Let's get real fucking specific with it.
Jordan Belfort, the real Wolf of Wall Street. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, pimp yourself out. Tell us about your program. Instagram, everything.
Instagram, listen, you go to jordanbelfort.com. Follow me on Instagram for sure, guys. I post great stuff, funny stuff, and also a lot of content for influence communication. And I think it's really I love what I do, guys. You know that I really love what I do. It's not even about the money for me. I love helping people, and that's I think my drug these days, my addiction is helping other people make money, and I love doing it. I'm good at it, and it feels great.
His podcast is fucking hysterical. You've written 2 books, right?
3.
And your program's called The Straight Line.
It's called the Straight Line Sales Persuasion System. Yep.
You've persuaded me to go buy your program after this podcast.
I pity you.
Jordan, when you start throwing wild parties again, don't forget about your good friend Michael.
I know. I promise I will not forget you. And good luck.
Taylor wants to come too.
Of course.
Taylor, you in?
Poor Taylor's good luck.
Taylor's in. Okay, come back on the podcast, please, with your wife.
I will.
And Instagram handle one more time.
Wolf. I'm verified. Wolf of Wall Street is my dad.
Yeah, I think it's the.
I have a son who's 23. I don't need to know these things. He does all
It's the real Wolf of Wall Street, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on. You're incredible.
You
Come back.
got it.
Please come back.
You got it.